dreams coming true.
I think basically what it's about is about, you know, growing up and realizing, what a life with consequences is about. I think when you're a kid, you have this dream. Oh boy, I want to play the guitar, and I want to, whatever it might be, And the way you imagine it, of course, what you're really imagining is sort of a life without complication. I guess that's what the song is about, really, sort of about, hey, dealing with life with consequences, not kind of letting it keep you from moving on down the road, keep you from going forward.
You wrote a song many years ago called Growing Up. Some people could say that all your songs are about growing up. Is that the case?
They have, a lot of them have been, I suppose even these are, really. A lot of stuff on these records is sort of like, hey, trying to figure out what is grown up, what's it mean to be a man right now? And certainly a lot of the stuff on these two records, they're kind of about characters are all coming to terms with those issues, with those things. What's it mean? What does it mean to be a husband? What's it mean to be a father? What's it mean to be a friend to somebody? When you finally kind of get a good look at the world as it is, how do you not give in to cynicism, not give in to despair, just because you can afford to, And, basically it's all the characters are all just trying to find their place, where do they fit? Where do we fit in the world?
About this business of manhood, you've written a lot of songs in the last few years, particularly Walk Like a Man, Real Man, Loving You's a Man's Job. I mean, is this
Ladies and gentlemen, walk like a man.
Is this adulthood or masculinity that you're looking at?
I suppose, yeah, I think that particularly in my business, it's something where you're afforded the luxury of extended adolescence, that can go on indefinitely, And I think that I found that I've gotten very good in my job, and because I was good at my job, for some reason, I thought that I was capable at a lot of other things in life, relationships, and if you're not in your 20s, you really don't notice it. You're too busy, kind of scuffling, but I think as you get a little older, you start to realize, oh, no, I see. I'm good at this, but all these other things I'm really bad at. I've been failing at really miserably for a long time, and you're beginning to investigate what those things were, which basically is your real life, your life away from your instruments, your guitar, your music, your work, your life outside your work, and I think in that area, it was something where over the past 8 years or so, I kind of been investigating. And I felt I really came up short in a lot of ways, and so I was just trying to sort my way through, feeling good, whether I've got the guitar on or whether it's in the case, It's my manhood to me, what makes, what kind of, what are my commitments, what are my, and how to try and stick by them, as best as possible in a world where you really can't know anybody else or ever really know yourself.
That's definitely a theme that comes through in Tunnel of Love, isn't it? The idea that people deceive themselves and that true love is an incredibly hard thing to arrive at.
I think very few people can confront themselves very accurately. We all live with our illusions and our own self-image. That is, there's a good percentage of it that's, it's always a bit of a pipe dream. And but I think if you can kind of cut that stuff away a little bit, which is kind of what I've tried to do in my music, and realize, like I said, like, oh, I do this well, but I'm very bad over here. I'm just taking baby steps in this part of my life, you know. I think it gets you closer to sort of, you know, feeling a certain sort of fullness in your life that you might, that I always felt like I was missing. You know, I enjoyed my work and everything, but I felt like when it came to kind of functioning in outside of it, I was always had a hard time.
View that of the two records, that Human Touch is about a man falling from grace in various ways, and that Lucky Town is a record full of images of redemption and so forth.
Well, I would say, I mean, if you're trying to cut the records up in that fashion, that yeah, there's a lot of kind of groping around on Human Touch, and there's less on Lucky Town. There's a little more of finding your place, you know. And I think refinding yourself, you know. It's about sort of getting back in touch with your own humanity and the good things that you feel about yourself, and also there's less fear on that record. You know, really the records are about kind of, if you throw back to Tunnel Love record, where the guy in Cautious Man has the love and fear on his hands, tattooed on his hands. That's about the story for most people, I think. You know, there's a world of love there, you know, but there's a world of fear too, and it's standing right in front of you, you know. And very often that fear feels a lot realer, certainly more urgent, you know, than the feeling of love. And the night my little boy, my son was born, I probably got, it was as close to what I guess I would say it was just a feeling of a real pure sort of unconditional love, and with all the walls down, you know. All of a sudden, what was happening was so immense that it just stomped all the fear away for a little while. And I remember I was really overwhelmed with with the feeling of the whole thing. And then but I also understood why, you know, why you're so frightened. You know, it's like, you know, when that world of love comes rushing in, that world of fear comes in with it. And you know, whether you're afraid hey, you got something you can lose. You know, to open yourself up to one thing is to face the other thing. You have to embrace both things, you know. And then you embrace those things, and you're just around the corner from, you know, death, the whole bit, the whole 9 yards. And so, but it was also something where I think that what I felt was so powerful that I said, yeah, I don't. My music over the past 4 or 5 years has kind of dealt with those very almost primitive issues, you know. And it's about somebody trying to walk through that world of fear so he can live in the world of love, you know.
Inextricably linked in the public imagination with New Jersey. You now live in California,
yeah.
Which is considerably different. Why do you live here, and what difference does that make to the music you make?
I lived in New Jersey for a very long time, and I kind of written about a lot of things that had a lot to do, very tied into my past. Always, you know, there's something, it's that old, you know, a lot of ghosts, different ghosts you're chasing, you know. And I felt like whatever they were, that was done, you know. That was basically done for me, you know. I'd kind of taken that as far as I could, and I was interested in just kind of making a bit of a break, both sort of with whatever people's perceptions of me were up to that point, and just in my own life. I was interested in kind of putting some distance between me and not New Jersey, the state, but but sort of part of whatever that kind of whatever that some part of that meant for me inside. And you know, Los Angeles is a good place to do that. You know, it was really, we came out and we got a really beautiful house, and Patty and I got together and the babies, you know, and it was just a good place to. You have actually a lot of anonymity. You know, a lot of anonymity. People always came west to kind of to refine themselves or to recreate themselves in some fashion. This is the town of recreation, very often, mostly in some distorted way, you know. But it's the raw material. It's just what you make it.
Were you in here preparing for a world tour when the riots started happening here?
Oh yeah, yeah. We were, yeah.
How did that make you feel?
Initially, it was a funny sort of thing. It was that particular afternoon in Los Angeles was an afternoon I think that people were really frightened. It was the day when all the invisible walls they could put up. L.A. ends up actually is a very segregated city, and all the invisible walls that you put up start to fall, and you can feel them starting to melt away and come down and come down. And people really got very frightened, you know. There were, I mean, you can go 5 blocks that way and you'll see burned out buildings, you know. It was just a powerful thing. You know, we felt pretty helpless. You know, we felt angry and helpless, but I can't say surprised, you know. I think that if people, a couple of years ago when Do the Right Thing came out, there were newspaper articles reviewing the movie, afraid the movie was going to incite riots in the cities. Well, if they think a movie is going to incite riots, obviously there is cause to riot, you know. And it was just, you know, I think it was just a matter of time. I think if you've watched the political situation in the States, see, people are disgusted with the whole two-party system at the moment. You know, there's nobody that anybody likes. And I think people have lost their faith that government can tackle those problems. And it's hard to see if people themselves have the will, you know, to sustain the type of effort that might give people a fighting chance at having, you know, just the small respects, nothing, just the small respects that, you know, leading a decent life, you know. And it's tough, you know. It's like, you know, it's sort of like, hey, I have a nice house, and I live in, you know, a great part of town, and I've made a lot of money, and I think you feel frustrated, and you feel, you know, I think of the days after the riots, you know, everybody felt very kind of, yeah, you got military helicopters buzzing 30 feet over your backyard every 10 or 15 minutes. I don't know, you know, I have no idea, you know, but it was not, you know, it wasn't a surprise, and I don't know where it's, you know, it's going to lead, actually.